I'm a Sunni Muslim. So I'm a Muslim. I'm Sunni, and yeah, that's my belief system. I think it's pretty, it's pretty simple, really. You know, and yeah, why do I believe what I believe? Like you asked. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, why are you, because then you follow Muhammad, why are you convinced that Muhammad is a prophet?
you said who followed Muhammad?
You follow Muhammad? Is that
No,
correct?
yeah, I follow Muhammad. Yeah,
Yeah,
sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
why are you convinced that Muhammad's version about Israel's prophets, why his version must be the correct one?
I think what I would say to that is that I think Islam is what makes most sense and is most correct. And the Prophet who brought Islam, well, I shouldn't. Let me not say that, but you know, the Prophet, who preached Islam, is Muhammad. So I believe in him. I think Islam makes absolute sense.
But with history, and Jesus and Adam and Moses and Abraham, these are all historical persons. And the flood story and the Exodus story and I say that the exiles and the kingdoms, the Israelite kingdoms, King David, King Solomon. These are all historical events. So, what is the oldest historical source for Jesus and for Moses? What are the oldest historical sources for Moses and for Jesus?
I don't know. What I believe in is the Quran, and the Quran tells us about these people. So, since the Quran tells us about these people, then we believe in them. We believe. That's all.
Mustafa, I understand, but let's begin from the beginning so that you can build up. From my logic sense, my common sense, if you want to learn about Alexander the Great, you go to the oldest sources that talks about Alexander the Great. When you want to learn about Christopher Columbus, you go to the oldest sources to learn about Christopher Columbus. So I want to learn about Jesus Christ. I want to learn about Moses. Then I go to the oldest source for these people. And the oldest source for Moses is the book of Exodus. And the oldest source for Jesus Christ is the Gospels according to Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, and some other epistles of Paul and Peter, etc. These are the oldest sources for these historical figures. When I want to learn about Muhammad, I go to the oldest source about Muhammad. That is the Quran and the Hadith. But the Quran and the Hadith is not an source, an authentic source to learn about Jesus or Moses. Do you agree with that?
Of course not. You wouldn't agree with that because you're not a Muslim. You don't believe that the Quran is from God. So that's the view you're going to hold, obviously. But if a Muslim who believes that the Quran is from God, then of course he's going to believe whatever is in the Quran. So, I mean, you're going to have that view because you're not a Muslim and you do not believe in the Quran, right?
I can understand if you take the position that a source must be directly from God. Then, of course, it cannot be corrupted, etc., etc. But we don't have a source, a book directly from God. What we have, every historical source is man-made. Everyone. We don't, if you have a book of God on this earth, I don't think anyone can touch it because it would be so sacred and holy. You cannot touch that. But what we do have is historical sources made by human beings, like every historical source, and it is man-made. And how do historians trace back which source is reliable? They date it. That's the first check. First thing they do, and then they uh, look at how many sources they compare the different sources. Let me give you an example. You have 10 reporters in America that report that Trump is president. Okay, Trump won the elections, and then you have one reporter in Spain that reports that Hillary Clinton won the elections. Well, how do we check which story is correct? Well, the 10 reporters are in the region where the election took place. The 10 reporters are in the same time period of the election. And the 10 reporters agree with each other on that Trump is president or won the election. Spain, the one reporter from Spain, he's on his own. He goes against every other source that that is available, and he's not from that region. And we see this also with Jesus Christ. There are 27 sources from that time period, from that region, that says Jesus is the Son of God, or that Jesus was killed or crucified. And then we have one source 600 years later from a different region called Arabia, from one man that contradicts these. So, it's just not a reliable source.
Which source said that Jesus was crucified?
Well, we have many sources. We have the Gospel according to John. We have the Gospel according to Luke. We have the Gospel according to Matthew. We have the Gospel according to Mark. We have the epistles of his apostles. So we have many sources. Yeah, so we start from the beginning. Let's say if I write a book today and my book has no contradiction in it, I know how to write. I write one paper, God is one. I, general, am a prophet, and Jesus was.
Have you read the Quran, General?
Wait, Mustafa. I write a book, and then Mustafa, you say to me,
I know where you're going to.
wait. Let me respond.
Okay,
Mustafa, you
land.
said, I tell you, my book is from God. I'm a prophet. My book is from God. Then you will say, probably you will say, or Joseph will say, but general, you come like 2023 now with a book. I mean, your book is not a historical, a reliable source to talk about Jesus and Moses, etc. Then I will reply to you both and say, well, have you read my book? You guys are not even going to read my book because it's so outdated. It's so, the date of my book it's not, yeah, you're not going to take it seriously. And that's the same thing with Muhammad. He comes 600 years later to tell everyone about Moses, and the people already had sources about Moses.
Yeah, but you're
You
making my
understand?
point, right? You're making my point. If 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 the prophet says that this is from God, right? Then you need to establish that fact first. And if it is from God, then it doesn't matter what time it came. So let me tell you how the Quran is, right? So the Quran, right? One of the root words that's connected to the word Quran is qira'ah, which is a recitation. So the Quran is not really a book in that sense that it's something that was written down. No, it was a recitation, and the way it was revealed unto the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is that the angel Gabriel, right, Jibril, he comes down and he recites the verse to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and then the Prophet recites it, right. So it was largely memorized, right. There are a few times where they write those verses down, and a lot of that happened, much later on, because what happened is that a lot of people who memorized the Quran were dying, so They wrote them down and then compiled it, right? So the Quran itself, it's not like a book, like maybe for example a mathematics textbook whereby it's just written down. It's a recitation, right? And that's why it's in its original language. And this is something you wouldn't find anywhere else. And that points to the point you made, isn't it? That you wouldn't be able to touch it. There is no book in the history of man, right? And I'm using book just for this point, right? There's no book in the history of man that is as old as the Quran and is as untouched as the Quran, to use your words, right? If you look at the other books, in history, they've all been changed. They've all had versions, right? They've all had versions. I mean, I could sit with my Christian pal, right? And we'll both be reading a verse from the Bible, and we'll both be reading two different sentences, even though it's the same.
Mhm.
Why? Because he's probably using the NIV, I'm using the KJV, and so on and so forth. But the
Yeah.
Quran
So
is unique in the sense, if you let me land, it's unique in the sense that it's literally the way it was revealed, right? So going by your metric, right, the Quran passes that test. Would you say so?
no, I don't. I don't agree with that because you said okay, the Quran is not literally a book, meaning papers with words written upon it. You're saying the Quran is a recitation, and the recitation is. I understood from you that the recitation is perfectly preserved, I think, by memorization. That's what I understand from you,
What I
correct?
said is what I was trying to say is that the Quran is not a book that was sent down as like a
Yeah,
book
it's a
with
recitation.
pages. Yeah,
It's a
it's a
recitation,
recitation,
correct?
and it was written down, right? It was written down for
Yeah,
and that's how we have it now. That's how you can buy it from the stores.
yeah. So the recitation was being memorized, and therefore later they wrote it down in a book form,
Yes,
correct? Okay, and you say this Quran it has been perfect, preserved today, and the Bible has not.
that's correct.
Correct? Okay, so let us check that. Wait,
Yeah,
Joseph, let us check
yeah,
it.
yeah. Let's check that against some records or letters written
Look,
by one Paul.
Mustafa. Yusuf, wait. Mustafa, you see the hadith I pinned
Oh, you
up
have them
on the top?
bookmarked, yeah? You have your doubts bookmarked. But well, let me check it.
Yeah, so I want to know the surah for stoning and breastfeeding because you say the Quran is perfectly memorized and preserved. So I want to know the surah for breastfeeding and stoning. Can you say it, please? And if you can't say it, then somehow it
Well,
is
I'm
not
not I'm not
memorized.
I'm not a scholar, so I'm gonna have to get back to you on
No, you
that.
can go
But
to your Quran.
if you give me
They
some
wrote
time,
it down in a book,
if you
correct?
give me some time, I can look it up, right?
Look, the surah for stoning and breastfeeding, it was destroyed by a sheep. A sheep destroyed it, and the people did not memorize it, so they could not put it in your book, in book form. So they had to abrogate it because it was lost. And the reason why it got lost, somehow God allowed a sheep to destroy the surah for breastfeeding and stoning. So your Quran is missing parts. It's not complete, my friend, because of a sheep. And the memory of the people was also not
Yeah, just hold on.
first.
I'll get back to you in there. Just hold on. I'm trying to find an answer for that.
Okay, well, while you're looking, I'll talk to General about this man that was, he wrote some letters. They're pretty much established that he wrote them. His name was Saul, and they surnamed him Paul. And he said that he was caught up into the third heaven where he received revelation from Jesus Christ. And I don't think that the revelation that this man got, even, I mean, it's just so much better than what was given to somebody in a cave. At least that's the way I feel about it, General. I don't know how you might.
Well, the stories of Adam and Moses and Abraham and Jesus Christ were already well-known stories, were already revealed way before Muhammad was born. You have in the third century, you had a city called Constantinople, a great city where Christians would gather and come to debate. We have the famous Nicene debate. So Muhammad comes all after this. The people were already well known with all these stories. And then Muhammad comes 600 years, 600 AD, and he goes into a cave. He is getting abused by an entity, an unknown entity, who grabs him and presses him so hard that he could not handle it, and he forces him to read something. So it was not a recitation. He had to read something, and Muhammad tells this entity that he cannot read, and then he grabs him again, presses him so hard that he cannot bear it, uh, and then yeah, 3 times, and then Muhammad runs away to his wife Khadija, and he is so scared. The hadith actually says there was terror in his neck muscles, and he said to Khadija, cover me, I fear, I fear something bad has happened to me. And then Khadija tries to, let's go to a Christian and let this Christian Waraka help us. So, if you hear the story, if tomorrow your neighbor comes to you and tells you, Joseph, uh, in the night an entity came to me and grabbed me so hard that I could not handle it and I could not breathe, and it did 3 times, did that to me, and I ran from the situation and I seek covering with my wife, then I don't think you're going to tell your neighbor, well, that was an angel. I don't think that, you know. You will say, well, I think that's something demonic, or it was an evil spirit. So, and that's also what Khadija thought, because she went to see a Christian priest called Waraka.
So is
And
it your
Waraka,
argument that an evil spirit was the one who revealed the Quran to the Prophet?
well, did you heard what I said about? I can pin the hadith for you if you want.
Yeah, I'm asking if that's what you think, if that's what your argument is.
So, an unknown entity, which is referred as the angel, came to him in it and asked him to read. The Prophet replied, I do not know how to read. The angel caught me forcefully and pressed me so hard that I could not bear it any more. He then released me and again asked me to read, and I replied, I do not know how to read, whereupon he caught me again and pressed me a second time till I could not bear it any more. And then the third time he did the same thing. Then the angel started to say something to him, Then it says, then Allah's messenger returned with the inspiration, his neck muscles twitching with terror, till he entered upon Khadijah and said, cover me, cover me. They covered him till his fear was over. And then he said, oh Khadijah, what is wrong with me? Then he told her everything that had happened. I fear that something may happen to me. Khadijah said, never, but have the glad tidings, etc. And then they went to visit a Christian priest called Waraka for help. So this entity, somehow Muslims and Waraka, the blind man, who was not a prophet, I don't know how he could decide this, told him it was Gabriel. And when we look to Gabriel, we know Gabriel visited Mary. We know Gabriel visited Daniel. Gabriel, when he comes, he is very like comforting. He wants to comfort you. You know, he says he's an angel of God. Do not fear. I am come with glad tidings. Or he says to Mary, blessed art thou of all women. Do not fear, Mary. God has this and that. So angel is very, you know, he's not aggressive. He doesn't want to make you afraid. He's not going to aggressively physically grab you so that you cannot bear it. That is not the profile of an angel, let alone Gabriel. So this is suspicious. And then later we also see what happens with Muhammad. Magic or voodoo has affected Muhammad. So, you know, we all know voodoo or magic is a tool of Satan, of the devil. And the devil has power over Muhammad. And therefore we know this man cannot, you know, it just cannot be a man of God. Cannot be man. So that's it, Mustafa. Just accept it, man.
So your argument against Islam is that the angel Gabriel held Muhammad so tight, that he was really scared, and you know he couldn't breathe properly. That's your argument as to why Islam is false?
That's not the behavior of an angel towards
So so
the
so so
people.
therefore Islam is false.
We don't see
You
this
know,
behavior
it,
with
the
angels.
thing is that it's not a very strong argument, right? It's not a strong argument at all, because
Was was Muhammad
that
Muhammad
doesn't negate
abused?
Islam, right?
Was
So
Muhammad
if I open the
physically
Bible, right? If I open the
Mustafa,
Bible
Mustafa?
and I
Was
start to
Muhammad
bring out verses in the Bible which are very violent, does that negate that the Bible is from God?
Well, we can go to that, but can you first acknowledge that Muhammad was physically abused in the cave by
No,
this
he wasn't
entity?
abused. He wasn't abused. He
He could
wasn't
not bear
abused.
it. He couldn't. Listen, if you see a
Listen,
grown-up
this is an
man,
angel.
yeah,
Have you heard the Prophet ﷺ describe what he saw? He said the angel covered the whole landscape, right? He said the angel covered wherever he could see. This is not a human being. This is something that he has never
very
experienced before.
powerful. It's very powerful.
This is something he's never experienced before, right? So the whole experience can be overwhelming, or could be overwhelming, right? He is literally
Yeah. So
bringing the words
the
of God to the Prophet
yeah.
Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
So Mustafa, an angel is a very powerful being, correct?
Yeah, I would agree. I would say it is.
Okay. When a very powerful being grabs a human being like that, isn't that like it's compared with me grabbing a 5-year-old child and
General, general,
grabbing and holding him so tight that he could not breathe anymore, that he could not bear it.
general.
Everyone around me is going to say, you are physically abusing that child.
General, are you an ex-Muslim? Were you a Muslim before?
No,
No, okay. Because I was gonna ask that, is this the reason you left Islam?
no,
So is it
of
is, is
course.
it is it is it
Listen, listen, listen,
is it
Mustafa,
based on
Mustafa,
your understandings
Mustafa,
from these
Mustafa, listen,
narrations that you
Mustafa.
feel like Islam is wrong? Are
No,
you
Mustafa,
because typically, right, people who have
Mustafa.
arguments against Islam, right,
No,
they typically bring
Mustafa,
counter
listen,
arguments.
Mustafa, listen. I just told you I'm starting from the beginning. This is the tip of the iceberg. There is when we go dive deeper, there are things in it that you just maybe don't know or you don't want to know. So this is the beginning, the tip of the iceberg.
All right, let me
Understood?
ask you a question. Let me ask you a question, right? Do you know Ibn Kathir?
Yeah, the tafsir writer.
Yeah. So if you're objective, right? If you're objective, and
Hmm.
a young person comes and says, "You know what? I want to learn Islam. Should I learn it from General, or should I learn it from Ibn Kathir?" If you're objective, who would you tell that young boy to learn it from?
Well, Ibn Kathir is a commentator. He's a commentator. If you want to
I
learn,
didn't ask you what Ibn Kathir is. I just asked you a question.
let me answer. If you ask me, if you want to learn about Islam, you must go to the Quran and the Hadith, the Sunnah. If you don't understand something from the Quran, which is
Hmm.
quite strange because the Quran declares to be perfect, clear, and very clear, then you can go to a commentator, which I actually don't agree upon because a commentator,
Okay,
he's
so
just
that's
a
your
man.
personal disagreement, right?
Ibn Kathir is not a prophet. But for I would advise if you want to learn about Islam, go to the Quran and the Hadith. That's it.
Yeah, but you didn't answer my question. You answered another question.
Yeah,
I asked you. I said, if a young person
don't go
wants to
to
learn
Ibn
about
Kathir.
Islam,
Yeah, you
should
go
they
to the
go to
Quran and the
General
Hadith.
or go to Ibn Kathir?
Uh, you don't go to general. You don't go to Ibn Kathir.
No,
You
no,
go
no.
to
That's the options.
no, no. That's not the option. You
Let me tell you
you
why
are
I
not.
asked you. Let me tell you why I asked you that. Right?
Listen, listen,
I
listen.
asked you that because you're telling me you're telling me that this is the interpretation of the Quran, and you're telling me
Why
to
are
accept
you
it.
why are you why are you nullifying the Quran and the Hadith? Why
No,
are
I'm
you
not
doing
nullifying the Quran and the Hadith. I would never do that.
that?
Ibn
Okay.
Kathir is Ibn Kathir does tafsir of the Quran. Tafsir is essentially exegesis, right?
It's commentary.
It's exegesis of the Quran, right? So he's essentially uh, giving exegesis. He's also giving commentary on the Quran. He's essentially like an explanation of some verses in the Quran,
Mustafa.
right?
I
Now,
have read
if the
I have
scholars
read
of Islam,
okay, Mustafa,
let
Mustafa.
me make the point. Let me make the point, right?
Yeah.
If the scholars of Islam, right, have given an explanation to something, and then general comes and says this is what it is. If you're objective, would you say to take general's interpretation over the scholars of Islam?
Yes, and I'm not saying, listen, you're
Okay,
making
all right then.
false arguments here. I'm not saying you must take my interpretation. I'm saying you must take what is written. And I'm telling you what is written. Muhammad got feared. He got taken, he got caught by an entity. He could not take it, he could not bear it. 3 times he got so afraid, his neck muscles was twitching, and he sought protection from his wife. This is what the hadith is saying.
Yeah. So
And
what's
that
the
is what
problem
you
with that? I don't understand. What's the issue?
so this entity is not a description of how we know Gabriel, who visited Mary and Daniel. Do you understand? This entity made Muhammad very afraid. He got so scared that he ran to his wife to seek protection. This is not what happened to Mary. This
And
is
I
not
told
what
you why
happened
he was
to.
scared.
Zechariah,
I told you
Zacharias.
why he was scared. He's never experienced something like that before. Have you seen the
Well,
other times that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam?
Did Mary experienced an angel before?
If you allow me to ask my question, right? Have
Did
you seen
Mary
the other
experience?
times? Have you seen the other
Mustafa,
times that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam
you're
met with
making arguments
Jibril?
that are just fallacious. Come on, man.
No, you're making fallacious arguments, right? You're saying that the reason, right, because Muhammad was scared, then this entity was an evil spirit, or this entity was physically
Okay,
violating him, and so on and so forth. That's your argument, isn't it?
why do we see that Muhammad was also affected by satanic magic? Satan controlled his mind. Why do
No,
we see
Satan
that?
didn't control his mind.
Okay, let me bring the hadith for you.
Satan didn't control his mind, and I know the hadith you want to bring forth, right? I know
Then
the hadith you want to bring forth.
why are you denying it?
Denying what?
That Satan controlled his mind.
Because you don't have the proper understanding. You're reading it from the perspective of someone who
Okay,
feels like they used to
let
read the
us read.
Quran on their own.
Let us read. Let us read. Uh, Also Sahih, authentic source to know about Muhammad, not about Jesus. Sahih al-Bukhari narrated Aisha, magic was worked on Allah's messenger, so that he used to think that he had sexual relations with his wives while he actually had not. So magic, a satanic tool, was worked on Muhammad. Someone put magic on Muhammad. Some devil worshipper put magic on Muhammad, and it affected his mind while so that he thought he had sex while he actually had not. So he had like imaginary sex. So why do you deny this? Why did you deny this?
So
Just
are you gonna
accept
are
it.
you gonna allow me to finish the point I'm gonna
Mhm.
make before coming in? Are you gonna allow that?
Yeah, do you accept this or not?
Are you gonna allow me finish my point before you come in again? Because I,
Do
I
you?
kept quiet
I
just
want
now.
to know if you're going to affirm and acknowledge that Satan
What
affected the
what I want to do
mind.
is what I want to do is educate you. That's what I want to do. So
No, if you're going to
unless you don't want to learn, then that's a different case.
Mustafa, you can
Unless you want to
reply.
believe what you want to believe, then that's a
Mustafa,
different case, of
no,
course,
listen. You can
right?
reply, but
But if you
please
want me
don't,
to educate you,
Mustafa,
then you're gonna have to give me time.
Mustafa,
Do you understand?
you can reply, but please don't deviate from what is
I'm
asked
gonna stay
of
on the
you.
point, right? I'm gonna address what you just brought up, right? Okay. So you just read the English version, right? If you read the Sahih Bukhari hadith, the word that was used there was matabub, right? Now, the word for magic in Arabic is sihr. Mashur is different from matabub. Do you understand this? Now, if you look through the Quran, we'll see that there are situations whereby matabub had an if had an effect on prophets. One of them, for example, was Musa alayhi salam, right? Musa alayhi salam went to the place where Pharaoh was, and the other, magicians were throwing down their sticks, throwing down their ropes, and they turned into animals. They turned into snakes, for example, right? Musa alayhi salam also saw that illusion. That is matbu. That illusion also affected Musa alayhi salam until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran that we told him, La takhaf, right? Do not fear. So it is possible, right, for these matbu to have an impact on Muslims and even people from the prophethood, right? What cannot have an impact to them is sihr. But here's the thing: if you're, if you're someone who's not educated, really, if you do not want to listen to scholars and you want to just read the Quran and Sunnah in English on your own, you're gonna get lost. Do you get it? You're gonna get lost. And by the way, before I finish, I just want to add that this is the same approach that extremists use. This is the same approach that terrorists use. They take verses from the Quran and they
Please,
say
no.
that,
Listen,
and they
let's stay
say
on
that.
point. Let's stay
No,
on
no, I'm
point.
staying on point, right? That's what you see. This is why I wanted you to let me finish, right? I was saying that
No,
this is the
you're
approach.
going to something else now.
This is the approach that terrorists use. They take verses, they read it, and instead of them understanding it the way the companions understood it, they say, "Listen, we just read the Quran and we go
Let's
implement it."
stay on point,
So
Mustafa. We were talking
back to the
about the
hadith.
hadith.
So back to
Yeah,
the
you said
hadith, right? Motubub is different from mashur, right? And sihr is magic,
Mhm.
right? Motubub, ma- of course, if you're using English, you might fall into a situation where you just classify everything as the same thing, right? But
Okay.
what I'm trying to
You said
explain
it
to you
already.
is
You
that
said it
they're
already.
different,
You
right?
said it already. Not repeating yourself, please.
So do you accept
So
that
you
it
said
wasn't magic of the devil that affected the Prophet sallallahu
Mustafa,
alaihi wasallam?
Mustafa. Come on, man.
Why don't you answer the question?
Yeah, you said
So
first
you
of
don't want to
all.
answer the question?
No, you made a reply to the hadith that it's incorrectly translated,
No.
and because you said in Arabic
What I'm
it is
asking if you accept that now.
Mustafa. Come on, man.
No, I'm
In a,
asking a simple
in
question.
in Arabic it is
You don't want to
something
answer
else.
it. Okay.
I'm going
I
to
I,
answer, but we
I
first,
see what's going on. Carry on.
yeah, we must first finish your argument against this hadith, the English translation of it. You said in Arabic it means something else. Since you are an Arabic, you are more Arabically scholar than the translator who translated this in Sunnah.com. You see the hadith I pinned in my PTR? Do you see it, Mustafa?
No, I don't say it. Hold on. General, I need
Re-
to make something clear before you carry on.
refresh, refresh.
I need to make something clear before we carry on, right?
No, you can refresh by
Yeah, that's fine.
swiping
I,
down.
I want to make a different point from this topic. I want to make it before we carry on.
No, but
I'm
do you
not a
do you
scholar.
see my PTR?
We let me learn. I'm not a scholar, right?
Uh,
Stage to try and
Mustafa,
tackle me, right?
Mustafa,
To try
come
and
on,
tackle me.
man.
That's not gonna work here. Do you understand?
Mustafa,
That's
listen,
not gonna
we're
work.
not attacking no one. We're just
No,
having a
you're attacking my
conversation.
religion. That's what you're doing. Do you understand?
How can I attack your religion? How can I do that?
How can you do that?
We
Are you really asking
we're
that
having a
question?
couple.
Joseph
We're having a
Joseph says
conversation.
in a, Joseph says is an apostle, right? Joseph says is an apostle.
Listen,
If you're truthful, come up and say the truth. That's exactly what you've been doing, man. And then you have people like the other
Mustafa,
people
Mustafa,
in the audience
you
come
go.
in and they want to do the
Mustafa,
same.
I have to mute you. Joseph,
I, I
wait,
said I
Joseph,
was a
wait. No, I don't want emotions on the platform. I don't want emotions, no complaints. I'm
General,
just having a. Listen,
general, you're
Mustafa,
not listening to anything I'm
look at the
saying at
topic.
all. You're not listening to
Mustafa,
anything I'm
look.
saying.
Do you see the title of the room?
I can see the title of the room,
Okay,
but you're
that
not
is
listening
what
to
I
anything
want.
I'm saying.
That is that is what we are discussing here. We just trying to get the facts straight. The facts. No emotions, no attacking. You can be a Muslim till the day you die. I don't care. Joseph can
Yeah,
be
but what
a
I'm saying, you
this
can't
many
get a
follower.
proper opinion
I
from
don't
me.
care. We are talking about historical facts,
You
not
can't get a
flower
proper opinion from
power.
me.
Okay, I put Arabic hadith in my PTR. Can you read it for me, please?
No, I'm not. I'm not very good at reading. I can try, but I'm not very good at reading.
Okay, can you read it for me? Because I have the English translation of it. Can you read it?
Can you put a link?
I put it in my PTR.
Yeah, but I'm using my computer. It's not letting me.
Come on, man. Listen,
What?
is your Arabic uh
No, it's not
is
very good. I'm Nigerian. It's not
okay.
very good.
So the translator of the Hadith into English is done by many
No, put the
professors.
link. Put the link. It's fine. I'll check it out if you can put the link.
The translator of the Hadith is done by Islamic professors. I think they are more capable of knowing what the Hadith means and how it should be translated than Mustafa of Clubhouse. Do you agree with me on that?
I would agree that scholars of Islam definitely have much more knowledge than Mustafa of Clubhouse.
Okay. So magic was worked on Allah's messenger and it affected him that he used to think that he had sexual relationship with his wife while he actually had not. So the devil affected the thinking, the mind of Muhammad.
Post the link.
That is the
Post the link. Let me read it with you.
that is the conclusion from the hadith that has already been posted in the link. When you continue reading, you learn that it was really magic and that they had to follow a certain procedure to with a comb and a hair, etc., and a date palm uh, to to uh, get cured from this magic, so that Muhammad get cured from this magic. So we see first step, Muhammad was getting abused in a cave physically.
The
He
conclusion
was
that you added, was
he
that
was
yours
feared.
or that was part
Wait,
of what you were
wait,
reading?
wait. He was feared. He took protection by his wife. Then we know the devil affected the thinking of Muhammad, his mind, that he had imaginary sex. So yeah, do you want to continue?
So
What's
what,
next?
what's your conclusion?
He's not a man of God. That's one thing that is very sure. Don't you
Yeah, I
think,
mean, I,
Joseph?
I, I would I would see that you would think that, based on
Yes,
your
and I'm
misinterpretation.
just a preacher. That's all I am. I'm just a preacher. I live in the United States, and I do not see how anyone could follow a prophet that you have described, General, compared to Jesus, much less the idea that Gabriel, the angel, could do such a thing.
We already had the Torah that talks about you must submit to God. There is only one God. You have the Shema that talks, "You hear, O Israel, your God is one Lord."
No, you
We have
absolutely do.
we have the book of Revelation that
You
talks
do.
about the judgment day. These things were already revealed by the Israelites, by the Hebrews. Okay, so we don't need someone from Arabia that comes 600 years later to tell the things that were already revealed by the Hebrews and the Israelites, or the Israelites are Hebrews.
Give
Do
me
you
one
understand that?
example of what was refuted by the Israelites. One example.
God is one. The judgment day in the book of Revelation, even in the Gospel of Matthew, um, how we should eat, how we should drink,
No,
how we should
no. All
interact,
this one
how we
wasn't
should
refuted.
in, how we should interact with our fellow man, how we should worship God, how we should. There are so many things revealed in the Bible. Muhammad is, I mean, it's no need to go to Muhammad.
Okay. All right.
But
So
Somali
what
wants
what
to
I
say
see
something.
what I see is, a lot of ignorance and misunderstanding, and I'm gonna exit the room now.
General, maybe you can ask like what, yeah, what kind of value did Muhammad brought actually? Because if we
Yeah,
say that Jesus already
yeah.
have, if the Bible already have give us everything, then what is the value? What is new? What did Muhammad give us that is new that we Christians didn't know?
Yeah, I only see that Muhammad brings in like the black dog is the devil. And you must kill black dogs. You must kill geckos because the gecko blew fire on Abraham, or the
A
blue.
lot of crazy stuff, basically. A lot of crazy.
Did you also learned about Malcolm Maut? Malcolm Maut? Malcolm Maut?
Malakul Maut, yeah, the angel of death. I think his name is Israfil or something like that. Yeah, what about him?
Yeah, so I learned from Muslims that angels do not enter a house because if there is a dog or a picture in it. And that Gabriel even broke his promise to Muhammad because there was a little puppy in Aisha's house where Muhammad resided. Have you heard
Yeah,
of
there
it?
was a puppy under the bed, and
So,
Muhammad ordered that they all be killed. And yeah, he said, "Angel, do not enter a house where there is a dog or a picture." So
so,
Muslims, they don't have dogs.
so does that mean that if I want to live forever, that I can bring a puppy in my house and walk with the puppy everywhere I go, or a dog,
See, General,
so
you're
that the
bringing
angel.
a very logical question, right? And these guys, they don't. If you bring that, they will say, "A'udhu billah, why are you bringing this logical question?" They will run from you, basically. So that the question you just brought, very, very logical. The angel, Malakul Maut, he's a malak, and angels do not come in the house, or but it says they don't come in the house. So outside, maybe he will catch you outside of the house, even if you are with a dog, because they just don't enter a house. But if you stay in the house and you get everything you need in your life in a house, and you have a
So,
huge 25,000 acre house, and everything you need is in there, and you have one puppy in there, that's it. Malkul Maut, he can never catch you, so you will live forever.
yeah, so okay, let's say they use that argument. Then when I see, for example, Joseph, he's 75 years old, and let's say he's a multi-millionaire. He can buy a great mansion, villa, something like that, put some dogs in it, and then he can live forever in eternity because the dog will scare away the angel of death. Correct?
Yeah, on top of that, he will not get any sins written for him, because in Islam there are two angels on the shoulders, and they write the deeds. So the two malaks, they will not be with you as well. If you have a dog in your house, they can't write your sins, so you're basically sinless.
Oh,
They
that's
don't use
another.
logic, these guys.
Oh, that's good to know that if you want to do something sneaky or something evil, or you want
Just
to
have
have
a dog with
an
you.
order,
That's it. Yeah.
just put a dog in your house and you can sin all you want because no one will write it down.
So now there is becoming there is a wave of what was the word, hurricane of apostasy in Islam, people leaving it, but also a huge amount becoming what we call Quranist, Quran only. So, for example, they could come in here and claim to be Muslim, and reject all hadiths that you bring from Sunnah.com, whether it's from Bukhari or Sahih Muslim or Sunan Ibn Majah or Sunan Nisa'i or all the 6 authentic hadith books, and even more. They will reject all of them.